I spent 10 years in my last job working with ministers.
Yeah.
Several of them listen. So here's an insider thing that I dealt with.
Hey, welcome to Ascend the Hill with Jeremy Austill. I'm Jonathan. This is Pastor Jeremy. How's it going?
It is a good day. We're recording a little later in the day.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of action, a lot of meetings, but a really good day.
Yeah, it's been a great day, great weekend. Anything special happened to you over the weekend?
Oh, let's see. I went turkey hunting twice.
Yeah.
Yes, and did not kill a turkey.
Oh, no.
But was, heard turkeys gobbling, had turkeys close, did not get it done. I went with Justin Oakes, one of our board members. He let me come on to his property and hang out with him and hunt turkeys. And it was a lot of fun. I love it. I enjoy it. So that was good. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess for turkey hunting, is it always the morning?
No, you can hunt all the way. In Tennessee, you can hunt dawn to dusk, if you will. Some states, they have a time limit. Like you have to be done at 1 o'clock or you have to be done at noon.
Oh, wow.
But in Tennessee, but I like getting up. I already get up early anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I like getting out there because, we could turn this into a turkey hunting podcast.
Oh, yeah.
but the turkeys are roosted in trees, and as the sun's coming up, they'll start gobbling.
Yeah.
And so you can locate where they are and then try to strategize. But I did not strategize well. Oh. I did not get us in position to take a shot.
Yeah.
So
do they have to be within a certain distance to shoot them? Or?
Yeah, because you're shooting with a shotgun. That's you either shotgun or archery.
Mm-hmm.
You're not allowed to shoot them with a rifle in Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
So you got to get them pretty close, ideally 40 yards and in.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot that goes into that, and they have unbelievable eyesight.
Yeah.
So the slightest movement, the slightest oddity, and they're out. So you got to be camoed up. You got to find the right tree. It's a lot.
Well, that's interesting that they have keen eyesight, because I feel like every time I drive by them on the road with my car, they don't see my car.
They don't care about that, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing. These turkeys out at, on this property, they see humans all the time. But you put camo on, and all of a sudden they have like this sixth sense to know that dude with that camouflage on, he is up to no good. I'm out.
Oh, man. That's funny, actually. Well, too bad you can't have any smoked turkey or anything. That's
I know. Well, I've still got one in the freezer, so I'll eventually pull it out. Yeah.
Well, this past week we talked about slaying giants in the sermon.
Yes.
And we talked a little bit right before we started recording. My giant from this past week was dental work.
Yes.
It was an amazing journey. I went in for a routine cleaning last Tuesday, actually, right after we recorded last week, and found out they needed to do some gum work. And so I had like 2 sessions, one on Tuesday, one on Thursday, and then 3 fillings yesterday. I go in for more fillings in middle of May, and then wisdom teeth at the end of May. So it's been a great,
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That sounds like a delightful next couple of months for you.
It was kind of hilarious seeing half my face numb and trying to talk, because everything was talking with a lisp, like heavy. I had to watch to not bite my tongue on accident.
Well, some people, the dentist freaks them out. The dentist doesn't really faze me a whole lot. And I'm not interested in getting root canals, and I don't really care for all that to happen. I have my wisdom teeth in, and the doctors have essentially said they're fine unless they start giving you problems. But for the most part, now they're kind of pointed different directions, but they don't give you too many problems. But the dentist doesn't faze me too bad. Now the eye doctor, I can't even.
Really?
Oh, freaks me out. When they start shining the light in your eyes and they want to touch your eyeball, nope. It just makes me want to scream. Punch, kick. I can't stand it. Like, I'm finicky about my eyes. But so you're going to get your wisdom teeth pulled.
I will at the end of May. Not looking forward to it. But it is what it is. So I'm not a dentist person.
Anybody out there who's had your wisdom teeth pulled, you just feel free to give Jonathan.
Yeah, leave me some encouragement. Comment.
Give him some insight on how he should care for himself.
You can call the church at 61. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so my gosh. Well, that doesn't sound fun for sure.
No. And so, so it's been a crazy week, racking up the insurance copay, all that stuff. So, it's been great. But Sunday was great too, because despite all that, me facing my own personal giants, I know that there are a lot of people who had their own personal giants walking in that were more significant than just dental work, you know?
Yeah, probably a little more than
Yeah.
wisdom teeth,
Yeah.
although wisdom teeth is a big deal,
Yeah.
you know?
And yeah, just the response, even post like on social media, I mean, people were just like, hey, I really needed that, or this was such a great day. Just everything involved in that. And we're kind of, last week we talked about David's beginnings as a shepherd.
Yeah.
And now I guess you would say this is his like first big test, I guess you would say. He's not even king yet. This is like his first big test. Yeah.
Yeah. This definitely elevated his profile, if you will. And I even mentioned it in one of the services, how this moment reveals you. It kind of shined a light on David.
Yeah.
Prior to this, the only people that knew about the anointing were Samuel and his immediate family. My guess is Saul did not know, or he would have had a fit. You know,
Yeah.
Samuel had said, I can't go do what you're asking me to do, Lord, anoint a new king. Saul will kill me.
Mm-hmm.
So King Saul doesn't know. It's really, David is still very much in hiding, if you will. He's not well known, but he goes and slays Goliath, and suddenly the whole nation knows of his reputation. And so it's almost like the Lord beginning to build his resume for one day being king.
Yeah.
It wasn't that automatically everybody thought, oh, he should be the king. He was still a kid. He was, you know, a lot of scholars believe still a teenager at the time of slaying Goliath. But if you will, the Lord's building his resume. Number one, building him into the man that God needs him to be king. So God's building him. And then from a public perspective, God is starting to make people aware that this is a noteworthy person. So when the time comes to crown a king, and we'll find out later, he's just the natural choice.
Yeah. Well, and it seems like even Saul, because I guess Saul doesn't know him that well yet, so this hasn't been a time for Saul to get envious of him for anything at all yet. He seems actually like supportive, totally behind him. Hey, try my armor, try this, try to help him.
Go ahead.
Well, that point, and Saul is even the one. He's not really doing, like in the story. He doesn't do something.
No, he doesn't.
He sends out the kid.
I don't know. There's a little bit of uncertainty on the chronology of the story because you have David being anointed, and then you have the David and Goliath narrative. But in between those two, we find out that Saul is being tormented. He's dealing with torment, depression, anxiety, tormenting spirits is what the text says. And he is needing a psalmist. He's like, I need somebody to help alleviate this this torment that I'm experiencing. And somebody said, well, there's David. He's a great musician. He's got a good heart. And so Saul summons David into his courts, and David plays in the corner, and these tormenting spirits leave Saul alone while David is worshiping and playing in the corner. So that part of the story of David's life is in between the oil and the David and Goliath account. But it does seem like in the David and Goliath account, like maybe David isn't as known by Saul. But here we have the previous verses. Well, he's in Saul's court. So there is a little uncertainty on the chronological order, but it's probable that Saul knew who David was at this point.
Yeah.
You know, that he was aware, he was on the radar, but David to Saul would have been the shepherd boy who's got an anointing on his life to play music.
Yeah.
He's the one God uses to get these tormenting spirits off me. That's the he's not in the context of a warrior. He's the context of a musician. And so, Saul is, it is interesting, but it also kind of lays out the character of Saul and why God had moved on from Saul. You know, that here's the giant, and Saul's like, I'm not fighting him. And I'm going to send a kid into battle. You know, that I still can't wrap my mind around, other than just the providence of God and the Lord nudging hearts. I can't fathom any other reason that Saul says the fate of all of Israel we're putting on the shoulders of a 15-year-old musician.
Yeah. All those aspiring worship leaders. There you go.
There you go. Let's go. The fate of the nation rests on your shoulders, on your guitar strap shoulders. And even though David's saying, I killed a lion, I killed a bear, still, yeah, okay. That's the whole nation, the fate of the nation is on your shoulders. So it is an odd moment that Saul lets him go. And Saul tries to put his armor. And we didn't talk about that. In ministry circles, that is a strong talking point. You know, somebody that, like myself, there is a real temptation in ministry to try to do things the way somebody else would do them because you saw it be successful for them, as opposed to operating in who you are and who God made you. That is a constant temptation in ministry, you know, leading in the church, of wearing, quote, other people's armor. But I just didn't really feel prompted to highlight that for the message this week. And that's in everybody's life, like the temptation to try to be somebody you're not. Yeah. You know, instead of really owning who you are. But that was just, I didn't feel impressed to lay that out.
Yeah. Well, and I guess another question in your study, when you're studying these verses and these scriptures, why was it a cultural thing that Goliath was the one to go out there and they just didn't attack?
Oh,
the whole army? And, was it like or it was just the way it was, or they were just being arrogant, No.
Well, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know why Israel didn't just say, we're going to get them. I don't know why the Philistines,
vice versa,
and maybe there was this desire to minimize bloodshed. Maybe there was that. I don't know. It's an interesting scenario. I can't speak to it because it's not laid out, and I can't say that I know the history of it well enough. From a reasonable standpoint, the Philistines are super confident in their guy, and it's like, hey, maybe we can have our giant go slay one of them, and we don't have to lose any troops. So, I mean, there's a logic in that regard. Now, why Israel didn't just say, we're not doing that. Mm-hmm. Let's go. I don't know why they didn't, other than, hey, we'd rather not get in a fight either. Mm-hmm. And, at this point, Saul has been reprimanded by Samuel. Mm-hmm. So there's probably some uncertainty in Saul of, is the Lord even with me? Is the Lord with me in this? So there may have been some hesitance in Saul to go into battle, uncertain that the Lord would give him victory. Yeah. So there's, all those different layers.
Yeah. And when we're talking about Goliath and giants in our own lives, I think a lot of the giants seem external, but I guess some giants could be self-made. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of the giants that we face are thought patterns that have just built up in our life: fear, anxiety, insecurity, you name it, anger. Mm-hmm. Some of our giants are of our own making. Yeah. Because and you even see that in different parts of the Old Testament. Israel would not deal with, at one point, they would not deal with a king. Like, they had a king from an opposing nation, and I believe this is in 2 Kings, maybe around chapter 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, somewhere in there. But there's an opposing king that in their past, they kind of had on the ropes, and they could have conquered him, and they didn't. They let off the gas, and later on, that king comes and lays a siege to them. Something you didn't deal with in your past suddenly becomes an ominous foe in your present. So, some of our giants are things that we have let grow. Yeah. And that's a very real part of it. Now, that doesn't mean that on my end or the Lord's end, you're going to get you earned it. Yeah. Tough luck. No, the Lord still cares about you overcoming that, even if it's self-made, even if it's because you let something lay, or you let something to develop in your own heart or in your own life, or you made a series of decisions that led to that giant. Nevertheless, the Lord wants you to have victory over it. Yeah. Then there's just life that happens that stands in your way.
Yeah. And what was also interesting is, like, you have this giant Goliath, and David shows up, and it's like all the immediate reactions it's just weird. His brothers are weird towards him. Saul tries to put the armor on him. It's like, hey, I know you think you know what you're doing, but let the adult show you how to do something. stuff like that. So
yeah, let the adults tell you what to do, but hey, we're going to let you 15, 16-year-old go out there and fight a giant.
Yeah,
It is weird.
What was it just, I think you touched on it a little bit in the sermon, but his brother specifically, it was like immediate. The reaction is like, oh, you're just doing it just because of this, or
Yeah.
it's just who he is, you know?
That questioning of his heart. We said that the brothers questioned his significance because they said, you should be dealing with those little sheep.
Yeah.
And they questioned his motive, his heart, by saying, we know that you have pride and deceit in your heart. Yeah, and the brothers' reaction, that was Eliab, which we presume to be the oldest brother. We talked about it last week that there was some uncertain circumstances around David's father and all of that we talked about last week. I'd be curious if anybody listened to that and if they looked it up or what have you. But so there could have been some animosity with the brothers. There could have been some animosity because the brothers had seen David get anointed by the prophet and they were just jealous.
Yeah.
There's a lot of layers that could be there. But for me, I think it was important. Satan is called the accuser of the brethren. It's not happenstance that in this crucial moment in David's life, there is accusation that's coming against him. I think that was a little nugget of information on how the enemy's going to come at us, in key moments in our life. He's going to come with some type of accusation. It can come from people.
Yeah.
It can come from thoughts that the enemy tries to plant. It can come from your own self-talk, things you say to yourself. But accusations against your significance, accusations against your character, accusations against your motives, I think are things that we all have to deal with. And then the reality is some people are just jealous.
Yeah.
Some people are just insecure. I don't like talking a lot about haters. It kind of seems, I think some people fabricate haters to try to like, I'm going to show my haters.
Yeah.
Like, nobody knows you exist.
Yeah.
I promise people aren't that worried about you.
Yeah.
They're not haters. But there is a reality that at times people assume the worst about you. They in their own hearts sow ideas about you that are not true because they assume your motives. And I think when that happens, what David did was he just like, what did I do? And then he just goes on to the next conversation. It was such a small moment in the message, but I hope people grabbed it. You and I, we cannot control the accusations that come at us, whether it's through people, whether it's through, assuming the worst about us, or it's those subtle things that the enemy is trying to plant in our mind. The best response to them is to keep going.
Yeah.
I have personally wrestled with overanalyzing my own motives, and the result of overanalyzing the why am I doing this? In essence, hitting pause on myself.
Yeah.
Because I'm questioning, is my heart right? Are my motives right? Am I doing this for the right reasons? Because that accuser's coming in, or other people, or even maybe even worse, being so concerned about how everybody else perceives you, and that you are paralyzed because you're worried about what people think. I spent 10 years in my last job working with ministers.
Yeah.
Several of them listen. So here's an insider thing that I dealt with. People that I know loved me still had opinions about what I did. They still had questions about some of my decisions. And I know, because it's amazing how stuff comes back to you.
Yeah.
People that I know were committed, that were a part of what we were doing, that had an affection for me, still critiqued me and criticized me behind the scenes. And so what do you do with that? Well, with me, I just chalked it up to that people are always going to do that. There's no way to escape that. And in my life, the higher up, the greater the influence the Lord gives me in life, the more that's going to happen. I cannot be consumed with that or be concerned about that. What I do is I stand before God.
Yeah.
and I say, God, here's my heart. You correct my heart. You shape my motives. Let me be right with you. Was I honest? Did I have integrity? Have I conducted myself appropriately? Okay, I think I'm good with you.
Yeah.
Now I'm moving. And I cannot concern myself with how others perceive me or how they evaluate me. I just have to go for it.
Yeah.
Just keep moving. And it can be paralyzing to worry about what everybody else thinks.
Yeah.
It can just, if you know that you're right, and I think getting to the place where you know, okay, my heart is right, that's not just this defiant, I know my heart's right.
Right.
No, you go through the process of putting your heart before the Holy Spirit. You go through, for me, the conversations with my wife, the close friends that I have, and laying myself out and saying, am I missing something? Am I off here? And that's a question I ask people. I mean, I've had conversations, in recent weeks with people that I consider, spiritual mentors in my life, and said, hey, okay, am I missing something?
Yeah.
Help. All right, let me lay this out. Am I seeing or am I off? And is my heart off? Like with people that I trust, that I know have my best interest. And so once you've gone through that process, okay, whatever everybody thinks or says, whatever the enemy's trying to plant is irrelevant. I'm moving forward.
Yeah. Well, I feel like sometimes we could be the Eliab unintentionally, in that we see someone else's life get one thing or the other. And do you think that we can kind of project, well, they're just being prideful, or they're just being arrogant, right?
Bro.
Rather than it being actual, it's actually you just assume,
Yes. I think we have to be very careful assuming what's in a person's heart. I think that is just dangerous arrogance.
Yeah.
Because we do not know.
Yeah.
I can look in the context of me. You can make an assumption about me, but you have no clue what I'm talking to the Lord about on the daily.
Right.
You have no clue. I might be struggling with pride, but even in that, you don't know that I'm not laying it before the Lord saying, help me with this. Like I feel this rising up in me. And I think we've all been Eliab at one time or another. I think we have all wrongly assumed things about other people's heart, their motives, what's inside of them. And so I just have tried to the best of my ability, assume the best until I've been given clear evidence otherwise.
Yeah.
And I've also realized too, if somebody is what I'm perceiving them to be, they'll give plenty of evidence over time.
Yeah.
I don't have to be first. In the media world, I know I like sports. And it's hilarious in the media world how everybody wants to be the first to break news.
Right.
They want to be the first one. And they want credit for being the first. And over and over and over again, you see people jump the gun with stuff that ends up not being accurate, right?
Yep.
And so I would say to all of us, you aren't in the media. There's no reward for being first. So don't be concerned with, don't jump the gun is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Let a person be. Don't be that person that assumes the worst. But I've done it. You've probably done it. We've all been there where we see somebody, the pride thing is interesting to me because I think we see somebody that's confident and because something in us, we assume it's pride and it might be confidence.
Yeah.
I think it's important to acknowledge that if I see bad stuff in somebody else, let me make sure that I'm not looking at my reflection in the mirror.
Oh, yeah.
Let me make sure that their life isn't just showing me something about me. If I'm projecting this on them, let me make sure that it's not actually something that's in me first.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's almost like that. What is it in elementary school? It's like you're pointing at me, but you have three fingers pointing back at you.
Oh,
thing.
Yeah. Right. Bro, you done broke one out there.
Yeah. That was deep. That was from that was fifth grade, Well, and leading on those lines, the brother accused him, and then we kind of touched on it just a few minutes ago, but Saul tries to put the armor on him, and it was almost like David's whole experience was one way, and that experience brought him to this moment to do it his way, not Saul's way.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how do, you mentioned, we can sometimes, people can try to put things on us that they think is going to be the best for us because it worked for them.
Yeah.
How do we, without being rude or a jerk, or even without, doing it the right way, move past that and say, that's not me. I'm supposed to do it this way.
I think number one, being convicted on this is the way for me. This is what the Lord has spoke to me. This is the word of the Lord. This is how the Lord made me. Having some resolve in you that I've heard from God. I've walked with God. I know who God has made me to be, right? And then clearly communicating that. Like being direct, not beating around the bush. Like this is what I believe the Lord's directing me to do. And then if that happens and someone tries to put something else on you, David he wasn't rude. He wasn't a jerk. He didn't, give this big outlandish response to Saul. He tried it on. Was like, this ain't it.
Yeah.
This doesn't work. Respectfully decline, I think there is something to be said for, I am just confident in my heart that this is what the Lord wants of me. And so going into most anything that's meaningful, I think you need a word from the Lord, or at the least enough of a compilation of scripture that I know this is the right course of action. And you just determine, like, this is what I'm going to do. And then you keep respect at the front of your heart. You keep honor at the front of your heart. But you at the same time just know, like, this is the direction. And anytime you feel like you've had a word from the Lord, anytime you are trying to operate in authenticity, you are going to deal with opportunities to deviate from that.
Yeah.
And some of the opportunities seem like good ideas. The armor seemed like a good idea.
Yeah.
It makes sense. You are going to have chances. And I feel like whether that is the enemy trying to trip you up or the testing and refining of the Lord, I just can say for me in ministry, there are a lot of opportunities along the way to deviate from what I'm convicted is the best thing and what the Lord wants. And just having that quiet resolve. It doesn't have to be bombastic. It doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be intense. But that thing on the inside of you, like, no, I'm confident in this. And that opportunity comes a lot to deviate.
Yeah. And as we wrap up here, like, once David goes through all that stuff, he comes to the end, and his final line actually in the scripture is, it's like, no matter, his brothers said stuff, Saul tried to do it one way or the other, and then and then David just goes out there, and says, "I come to you in the name of the Lord. This is the Lord's battle, and He'll give it to us." He's like, his resolve is like unpenetrable.
Yeah.
And so, how do we get to that? Like, when we're trying to slay our giants, when we're trying to come against things that are attacking us, the enemy attacking us, what is that process for trying to get that resolve or get to that point of resolve? Is it just a simple one thing or the other, or what would be a good way to kind of mentally frame, hey, I want to have that resolve too?
I think you have to fight for that resolve. I don't think it comes natural. I think because, again, the enemy is making accusation, because the giant is intimidating, because people are trying to offer alternate routes.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot that's going on, and you fight for that confidence that the Lord is going to get it done. I think you confess it. I think you speak it. I think you praise it. I think you worship it. I think you pray it. You do these things with great repetition, constantly. When a differing opinion enters your mind, not like somebody's giving you, but like when a differing thought hits your mind, like, I'm going to repel it. You just keep contending for that. But it is, I think, a necessary part of the process that you come to a place where you say, the Lord's going to win.
Mm.
The Lord has won. The Lord's going to give me victory.
Mm-hmm.
And I am going to live with that confidence. I'm going to live with that resolve that I'm going to get to the other side of this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm living in that, pastor, in this church.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I'm confident in what the Lord has told me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm confident in where we're going to end up.
Yeah.
Right. That's contended against constantly.
Yeah.
In my own heart, the accusation of the enemy, like that's what you see with your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, each week as the attendance comes in, you know, if you're not careful, your confidence will fluctuate with that.
Yeah.
And so there has to be this resolve on the inside of you, like, no, we will see God do everything that he said and everything that he promised.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to remind yourself of that often.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll tell it to my wife. I'll tell it to staff members. Like, we're going to see God do it. Because even in saying it,
mm-hmm.
I'm building my faith. I am strengthening my resolve that it's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, if there are any giants in your life that you've gained victory over or you want prayer for, let us know in the comments. Call us at the church, 615-865-6655. We'd love to pray with you and walk with you through it, because it's more than just a podcast or a church where you come and attend on Sundays. We're here for you to walk this journey with you. Thank you so much, Pastor Jeremy. Thank you so much for this sermon series, Grit. What are we talking about this week?
I'm not sure yet.
Yeah.
I've got a general idea, but I don't want to say it in case I feel like a change is coming. And so I'm pretty sure I know what we're going to do, but I'm not certain yet.
Oh, well, you need to be here on Sunday or watch online, and then we'll talk and deep dive it next week.
Yes.
See y'all.